So hello guys, and welcome to another episode of the 12 Days of Switchmas, and today I will be talking about a very special game, and it's now one of my favorite games of all time. So, it's almost tied with tomorrow's game, but I put the edge slightly on tomorrow's game just because I was waiting for it for a little longer, but this game is also one that I've been waiting for like half a decade, and it's Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom is just an absolutely amazing game, and it expands so much of what I loved from Breath of the Wild. And honestly, I feel like this game, like, the way Nintendo has marketed it, like, Nintendo is really underselling this game, honestly. I mean, some ways, Nintendo is, like, still hyping it up, obviously, but it really does seem like Nintendo is underselling this game. It really seems like they're just saying, oh, it's another Breath of the Wild, but really, this is so much more than just Breath of the Wild 2. Because it does use the same world, but it's so much more than just that. Like, it's not just the Sky Islands. I mean, sure, the Sky Islands are cool and are definitely a major part of this game, but there's a whole other part of this game that Nintendo has not been talking about at all. Maybe a little bit, but like, for the most part, they've been not bringing this up. I don't even think it's in the overview trailer, but you can correct me on that. And that is the depths. The depths is where this game shines. It is absolutely amazing what they did, because the map is nearly the same size as the surface. So practically, Tears of the Kingdom is basically twice the size of the original game, which is absolutely incredible and is very impressive for the Switch, considering the fact that a lot of this is all of this is rendered on the Switch and everything. I think there's just one little loading area, but like, it just seamlessly transitions into the underground part of this world, and it's incredible. Like, the only thing that's like making the depths a little smaller are like some of the walls separated by like bodies of water. But even then, like, the area covered by the Sky Islands covers like most of that, I would say. At least like the content that the content worth that is in the Sky Islands and everything. So practically this is basically like twice the size of Breath of the Wild and everything. So there is a ton to explore in this game. And then even on the surface, like, they did change a lot. Like, you do have completely different missions, completely different events, and completely different enemy encounters. It does feel very different from the original game, and they did tweak quite a lot of that original world. So even though you will find a lot of familiar places, it still seems different, and it still is definitely worth playing if you've played Breath of the Wild. And the other major thing that they added, which is basically one of the big selling points of this game, and I am glad that Nintendo kind of sold this aspect of the game, and that's the new mechanics. Since the new mechanics also set this game apart quite a lot from Breath of the Wild, and honestly make the overworld almost like a sandbox or a playground to kind of play with. So it kind of makes sense that they kept a lot of the geometry and layout of the base map the same, because it's basically that surface area is almost like a playground for using these new abilities like Ultra Hand, like putting things together and things, and using Ascend. And you could really just kind of do a lot of fun and crazy stuff in this world. So it kind of makes sense that some areas are familiar, while a lot of areas, like the Sky Islands and the depths, are different. So in those areas, you can kind of take advantage of the skills that you learn on the surface that you're more familiar with. So The Ultra Hand ability is amazing. I really like how you can put together all of these really cool vehicles and devices and different things. I had a whole series on this channel a few months ago dedicated to showing off different designs. I made like airships, boats, cars, planes, all sorts of different things. And it's cool how you have all of these components to work with, to put them together. It almost reminds me of that one mobile game, Bad Piggies, the way you could put all these random devices together. And also, in some ways, is very similar to a lot of other, like, sandbox games. Like, similar to, like, Minecraft and things, and Banjo-Kazooie, Nuts and Bolts. I know that game isn't very good, but it still is worth bringing up because that is a similar concept, but it is executed very well in Tears of the Kingdom. I know, for some, it might seem weird in a Zelda game, but it just, like, once you play it, it makes so much sense. Like, putting together all of these things, kind of thinking outside of the box on how you want to traverse around this world is very fun. And, like, it's honestly just really fun to just put together all of these, like, cool creations and find something that's actually very efficient, like the one where you attach like two fans and a control stick, and you can just use that to like fly around the world or in the depths if you add like a light to it. But yeah, the world is basically your playground in this game. You can even attach like wood and logs together to build something, and you can just make anything in this game. And like I've seen so many insane creations online, and it's just really fun in general. And the gameplay loop between going in the depths, kind of getting the Zonaite, and then kind of like upgrading everything, and then upgrading your battery, and doing different things like that, that's a really cool upgrade. It's almost similar to the gameplay loop of going through shrines and kind of expanding your health and stamina, which is also present in this game as well. I'm glad that they kept the shrines. And also, on the topic of shrines, I feel like the shrines are much better in this game than they were in Breath of the Wild. In Breath of the Wild, I mean, they were good, but I feel like they didn't really, like, a lot of them were just kind of weird. The puzzles weren't really as, like, fun to figure out. Like, some of them were just kind of weird. Like, in Tears of the Kingdom, they take full advantage of your abilities, and it seems like every shrine here feels unique. So, I'm glad that the shrines were handled well. The dungeons, while they aren't traditional dungeons, I still do appreciate how they work. Like, they do kind of take advantage of your abilities in some ways. I wish they did strike a better balance between traditional dungeons and the open world Zelda format, but that's a discussion for another day. I was fairly satisfied with the way that they handled the dungeons here. I did think they were fairly fun in design. I understand where a lot of people are coming from when they want these more traditional dungeons, because I kind of want that too, and I think they can strike a balance if they design the game a little differently, but I did still think they were good. And the boss fights were really good too. Though, on the topic of enemies too, I wanted to talk about that as well, since I also feel like the combat was improved as well, since you now have the fuse ability, since it's almost like a pseudo-crafting system, but it still does work really well. It does kind of help the weapon degradation system a little bit, because the weapons don't break as frequently, and you kind of have more customization over your weapons and everything. And there's also a lot of enemies in this game. Like, there's a lot of new enemy varieties. I mean, sure, it's not like a huge variety of enemies. I mean, it's just a little better than Breath of the Wild, but I do think it was enough. And there still are like a lot of really cool returning enemies as well as new enemies. Like, I think there's a good variety here, and like I do feel like with the depths and everything, like the enemies are like a lot more difficult. Like they actually take away from your full health temporarily. So I do like that, like, risk and reward that the depths have and everything, and it's just pretty cool in general. So, the story, while it's not anything amazing, I did think it was decent. Like, I like the memories and everything, and the fact that they kind of dabbled in the time travel elements a little bit. I thought it was alright. It wasn't, like, anything groundbreaking, but it worked. It kind of held the game together in a lot of interesting ways, and I thought it was fairly good. But overall, Tears of the Kingdom is an excellent game. There's so many great elements of this, and if you think it's too similar to Breath of the Wild, I kind of recommend giving it another look, kind of looking at these like more interesting and unique elements, like the Ultra Hand fuse, the depths, different things like that, because there are some very significant changes from Breath of the Wild, and it does feel like a true sequel to me, because they basically did expand this game quite a lot. They kind of expanded a lot of Breath of the Wild's things, while also kind of giving it a bigger world in general. But yeah, Tears of the Kingdom is absolutely amazing, and is definitely one of my favorite games of all time, and definitely one of my favorite games of 2023. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Twitter if you want to. Goodbye!